Andrew Callahan is the Patriots reporter, columnist for the Boston Herald. He joins us in studio this morning. Hello, Andrew. I might want to turn on your microphone.
Fred, you got to turn his mic on so we can hear him. You silly goose.
Well, this got off to a good start. So, Andrew, thank you for joining us. All right, we played the clip from Mayo. I don't like to dig way too into X's and O's, but there was some controversy that in man, Christian Gonzalez was not mirroring Nakua and Kupp during that game. A lot of teams or some defenses played their best corner just on one side of the field. I don't know why they do it, but there whatever reason is. What were the stats when Gonzalez was on those two receivers, and what were the stats when he wasn't?
So stepping back for a second, as someone who was critical post-game, and then this morning in my film review of the game plan, I want to say two things. One, they take a lot into consideration, not only the matchups, motions, plays, when they're building this game plan. Number two, everyone's entitled to a whiff. This, I believe, was a whiff. And here are the numbers. When they were in man-to-man coverage, which happened on 16 of 27 dropbacks from Matt Stafford, Christian Gonzalez was covering either Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua on fewer than half of those snaps, which to me, right away, that's a mistake. He's got to see them. And you could say, oh, well, if he was always shadowing Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp, you would know he's in man. The Patriots have done this season. Jamar Chase, week 1, where he followed him, usually an indicator pre-snap that they're in man-to-man coverage, and then they dropped into zone. We talked about it here on this show, so it's not always an indicator. When Gonzo was on Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua in man-to-man coverage, Matt Stafford went 4 of 7, 36 yards, and a success rate of 33%. Really good if you're the Patriots. When he was not, when he was covering Tutu Atwell or Demarcus Robinson or a tight end, Matt Stafford against man-to-man coverage, 6 of 9, 146 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 66%.
Yeah, but that's inflated by that 169-yard touchdown over Jonathan Jones, right?
Yes, but we can go 5 of 8 for 2 touchdowns and a success rate still above 50%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it doesn't really matter at all, is what you're saying.
Take that one out of there. It really doesn't skew the
Do you feel better, John?
Well, before the game, I thought this was going to be very tough for the Patriots just because of the coaching and quarterback advantage in terms of experience. Do you think that some of that came into play there? Do you think maybe they were over concerned about McVay?
I do.
Because
I chatted, and there was a small group of us on Thursday with cornerbacks coach Mike Pellegrino, who I brought up, hey, you played man coverage at this insane rate at Chicago. Worked out great, 71%. You're just going to do a lot more of this. And his response to me was, well, look, when you play man-to-man, you know you're going to get these man-beater concepts, whether it's traffic or rub routes, whatever it might be from the offense. And McVay had a ton of those. He had a ton of good ones, including stuff in motion that will affect them communicating, hey, if we're going to switch here, who do I have? And so I do think that even though they played a high rate against the Rams, 59%, they were a little too concerned with that versus we need to stop their 2 best receivers because that's the whole offense.
Okay, so to me, that's the silliest thing to say, well, we had success doing this against Chicago. Let's try something along those same lines against Los Angeles. Why would you think one would translate to the other?
Because they shut down a good receiving core in Chicago. And I think you don't even have to go to the same 71%, which they mixed some man and zone. But they played more double teams against DJ Moore than they did against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp.
Who's throwing the ball?
But
there's the other side of that equation.
But this goes back to the McVay problem. Do you think they thought, well, we had that on tape, and now McVay can? I just thought that I'm really sticking on this because I do believe it's true that when you're a young coach and a young staff, you saw it against Belichick all the time that you can kind of outthink yourself. Mm-hmm. And do you think maybe they thought that we'd done this against Chicago? It's on tape.
Well, they also did it against the Jets, and that was more my point to Coach Pellegrino is to say, hey, your 2 wins recently. You play a ton of man coverage. Your offense is running the ball better. That's kind of the formula, right? Mid-season, you know who you are. And I would say, as someone who focused a lot on, early in my career, all of the disguise and you got to fool them and this and that. No. The goal is not to make sure they don't know what you're in. It's to make sure that you stop them. You go back to that Super Bowl against the Rams 6 years ago. You can watch the old NFL films clips, and McVay after the first drive goes, are they in that quarter structure? Mm-hmm. Oh, they're in a 6-1 front. and the Patriots never got out of it and hold them to 3 points.
Okay, so this is something else, and it's really more of a macro question, but the ability to switch and make in-game adjustments, which
That was my issue.
okay, so and I've been told over the years that sometimes those can be overrated, especially halftime adjustments.
Yeah, because they don't do anything at halftime, right?
Yeah, right. Okay,
Have an
but
uncrustable call it a day.
is that
Yeah.
is that maybe where you're seeing some of the rookiness come out in Gerard Mayo as head coach, and in what we thought of him as being able to be a defensive head coach, really showing up in game where something's not working and they don't really change.
This is how I put it in my column post game, Hardy, because I said, okay, best case scenario, this is just player arrogance. We believe in Jonathan Jones so much and Marcus Jones, just as we did in Chicago, and both of them showed up and shut down those receivers, that they can do it again. Or it's coaching conceit in a worst case scenario where it's like, I see all this evidence in front of me, but I know better because I'm the guy. I'm the head coach. We know better. This is the Patriot system. This always works, even though the Rams go for a touchdown, then another touchdown, and a field goal before halftime. And they come out for another touchdown and another touchdown. And I go, I think your best corner should probably spend a little bit more time on their best receiver. And you know what? They finally did on those last 2 drives. Cooper Kupp got 2 catches on Christian Gonzalez for 9 yards, and they punted both times, and that's how Drake May got a chance to come back.
Overthinking or not realizing what's not working, I'm not sure. But the fact that you don't have your best corner on the best receiver until that late in the game is just, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and there was some
Jets
of that.
do
Again,
it.
there are a lot of considerations.
No, they do. They did it.
really
They
do.
did it when their defense was good. Sauce Gardner stayed on one side of the field. I
But
don't
they
know
had
why.
overall their defense was
On paper, yeah.
And there are benefits to that, right? Like, okay, he's going to be on this side of the field. We know that we can tilt the rest of our coverage over there and get more of a numbers advantage. But Sean McVay early in that game played a lot of wing sets where they'd have 2 tight ends in the boundary where Christian Gonzalez was the whole time. And they're like, we'll just put our 2 receivers on the opposite side. And you have to stay there because you're in base defense. So you need a corner on that side. That's how Kupp scored his first touchdown. It's how Nakua got a 37-yarder at the start of the 3rd drive. And then a touchdown against Jonathan Jones. That same formation. That was it.
You know who's big on Puka Nakua, or Cooper Kupp being has-been? I'll give you just a quick guess. Who can I not stand who said at the beginning of the season Cooper Kupp was done? It's a long list.
Yeah.
All right, I'll tell you.
Lombardi. I don't know.
Kaboom!
Well
Nicely
done.
I'm surprised he actually made
Took a side?
an analysis of some like a specific player on a team that was not directly involved with Belichick.
You think I'm? Well, no. Everyone who's not directly involved with Belichick sucks. That's his whole thing. He's like because he's got something in his mouth.
Oh boy.
Would
You
you
know?
want a Mike Lombardi in your corner, though? We're like,
No,
everyone else knows he's
I
not
don't
a
want-
reliable narrator, but like that guy is
No,
your
for the
hype
same
man,
reason you don't want
ride or
Jim
die.
Gray in your
No,
corner
you
because
don't
everyone knows
Not
what
at
he's
You
all.
don't
doing.
want him as
No,
your hype man.
no.
You don't want
Yeah, I don't want a drooling idiot as
Don't
my hype
want-
man. I mean, it go if you have someone savvy and like smart that's kind of manipulating the narrative. That's one thing. If you just have a lapdog that's vomiting up a bunch of garbage,
How many
it's
people
no
in the
good.
industry take him seriously?
No one, and that's the thing is that even Mad Dog when he has him on is like, all right, Mike, like
Yeah,
and I think they like each other.
So I do not want Michael Lombardi.
He's
as my
on
hype man.
McAfee. He's on Simmons. That's
Well,
That's
wow,
why I asked.
so he's getting those big checks for his guest fees.
yeah.
I don't think he's getting the Aaron Rodgers $1 million to do Mac.
He's entertaining for all the wrong reasons. That is why he is on. He was entertaining when he was on with Felger last Super Bowl. I mean, this station lasted a week on that interview alone.
He's like the
So-
fat lady in the Marx Brothers movies. Like he's just a foil for people to play with.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
You could be entertaining and still not be taken seriously.
Yeah, you get the
Seriously.
the
Like, that
uptight
happens
fat
a lot in
lady,
this
and you let
space.
Groucho go on her. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he gets her all riled up. All right, and another thing I'll ask you, just this will be the one segment where we analyze the strategy of the game. I'm not a huge fan of doing that, but on the radio, I like reading about it. But did they take enough chances? Were they aggressive enough? They kicked the field goal instead of going for fourth and two.
Mm-hmm.
And but it led to it being a one-score game. Your feelings on that? Your feelings on not kicking the field goal, the 55-yard field goal? Sosi was saying the wind was crazy. What were your thoughts on those things?
So the 4th and 2, to me, was the most egregious of the errors because
Okay.
Gerard is saying, okay, if it's 4th and 1, I might change my mind. And I'm like, look, you're one of the most conservative in-game coaches in the league. We talked about this before. Like, what do you have to lose? This season's about development, it's building culture, making the calls to say, we're going to go for this. I believe that you can punch them in the mouth and get 2 yards and get a touchdown, and we'll take the lead and we'll make this comeback. Go get it for me. He didn't do that. And I get that you want to sometimes take the points here and there, but I thought all together, all of those decisions said, I'm not coaching scared, but it's something a little bit closer to that than the aggressive coach that I think he wants to be.
Okay, and I'm curious about this too. They don't take the 55-yard field goal. So she said that end of the stadium before both kickers were having trouble.
Sly
what's
hit
weird
a couple uprights.
So
right?
I was watching the flags at that end of the stadium. These are flags that are like the very top. No one is sitting higher than those flags at Gillette Stadium. That indicated the wind was at Joey Sly's back, the Patriots' back, because they were kicking towards that end. But the top of the field goal post, where you've got those little whatever's dangling down, those are very still. So I don't know if the wind was different high up versus 200 level versus on the field, but all the indicators that we had were conflicting. So I just have to trust what they said down on the field and what Bob picked up, because he's at like 100 level. So he's
Bob
closer
just
than
had
most would
heard
say.
that like after the game. I don't think Bob like saw it. He said he didn't see it. But my point remains: if you don't have a kicker that you trust to make a 55-yard field goal,
Well, he had shaky warm-ups to that end of the stadium.
No, I know,
And
but-
that was like right on the line.
but it might have
point
been
is-
my point. Yeah, thanks, John. It's true. My point is not like was it the right decision. My point is if it was the right decision, why is this guy your kicker?
I would just, and the other part of it is, isn't it funny how guys like Brandon Aubrey, you don't have to worry about any of that. Go ahead, go out and make it. You'll be fine.
Well, that club used to have 2, and now it's got 1 because it was Brandon Aubrey and Justin Tucker. Now he's making like 70% of his kicks.
Yeah, Justin Tucker had a rough
I think
week.
they're rarer than you would expect. Granted, it is a time in NFL history where 50-yarders have never felt easier. I think they took into consideration the warm-ups, which maybe that's not predictive, maybe it is, and the wind, which, as I told you, I'm looking at 2 things generally pretty indicative of what it's like down there, and they were telling me in the press box 2 very different things.
Yeah, I said this yesterday. Let's just take a moment because I didn't balk at what Fred said. Like, if you have a kicker who can't make a 53 or a 55-yarder, get rid of him, and how ridiculous that would have sounded 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that was still a mammoth field goal. Now it's just what is
And
expected.
we're still talking closer to 50-50 than, what, 80%? What's the confidence level that you want for a guy to go attempt that kick?
Okay, but I'm also going to ask you, how much do you flip the field in that plays? Like when you punt, like what's the? That's where the strategy comes into
Yeah.
play. Is like how much of the field
Didn't
I'm
the punt
flipping.
go in the end zone?
Yeah, if I can pin him at the inside the 5,
And it didn't
I
happen.
guess. But if I can't pin him inside the 5, it's 25 yards. It's 20 yards.
Yeah.
Like what am I talking about here?
Yeah.
And, there's at that point in the game, I don't know. It just that I'm the only one, so I won't harp on it. But that to me was the most fascinating decision, is because if you watch around the NFL, like you guys are going 60-yard kicks, like people aren't passing up 55-yard field goals. It just doesn't seem to happen very often, at least what I see. And the Lions are booting them out of the stadium. Go ahead. What are you looking at?
I was just trying to pull up what the down and distance was there too, right? Because if it's not, go for it. And I have it. Yeah, it was 4th and 13.
Yeah.
So that to me is you take obviously the 4th down attempt off of the table.
Yeah.
Then you're talking about a field goal, and you're going, if this is a 50-50 shot, okay, then the expected points that I would get out of this is 1.5. The downside being I put an offense that I think had just scored a touchdown and run a sort of know they had punted with short field. It's early in the game where I can't get too critical of that. If we're talking a little bit later, and that's a kick that could have put you ahead in a late spot, then I give it a little bit more weight.
Again,
to me, the field goal that was more damning, or the non-field goal, was the 4th and 2. Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this to me wasn't a coaching decision. It was just interesting that they didn't think that the kid could take the kick. All right, very good.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.